Welcome to the latest episode of the Football Fun Factory podcast. We love to talk about the grassroots game because that's our big passion, mass participation here at the FFF. Jonny, one development that's been talked about recently is heading in youth football. That's going to be the topic today. What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, so it's something they've been trialling over the last couple of years now, and they're now rolling it out to basically sort of stop heading within grassroots football, especially those foundation phase age groups, and then actually change the throw-in to a pass-in or a dribble-in. So I'm looking forward to putting it on trial and discussing it in a bit more detail.
So we're going to be dishing out a couple of envelopes. We're going to be giving a couple of opinions, so that'll be interesting to see. Chaddy, quite a big development really for the grassroots game, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it'll be very different seeing how it works out. I think looking back to my experience of a child, I don't remember heading it that much anyway. I don't think it would have made that much of a difference when I was playing, but in terms of the restarts when the ball is in the air, it's going to be interesting to see how it works. Massive pros for it. I'm sure there'll be a few cons as well, but looking forward to having a chat about it.
Great stuff. Let's put this topic on trial. So as we head into the next part of the podcast, I wanted to share some fantastic personal news. That this will be the last time that I'm the judge, because it's the last episode of Series 2. Jonny! You must be absolutely buzzing to become the judge.
Cannot wait. I think I'm going to really suit that wig.
I think so. I think you'll make it look even better than it looks on me.
Sure.
What we're going to do in the next part of the podcast is got 2 yellow envelopes, and that one's for you, John. That one's for you, Luke. As these guys have a read of their envelopes, let me explain this section and exactly how it works. We've got 2 contrasting views on the topic of heading in grassroots football. These guys are going to read out their view, but it's not actually their view, it's the view that's on the card. But they have to get it across as if it is. They're going to read out their views, they're going to give an opening statement, as people do in court, and then the other person is going to put them on trial. The first person to read out their view is Luke.
So, the new heading rules are bang on and a great development for the grassroots game. World Cup 2026, here we come. Now football really is coming home.
It has to this time, doesn't it?
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
It's absolutely coming home. Jonny, contrasting view for you.
My statement says, the new FA rules are ridiculous. Why play the game in this way, only for children to play a different game when they progress to senior football?
Some of Johnny Martin's views on youth football are crazy.
I know, yeah, it's terrible.
So what we're going to do then, Luke, if you could just give us an opening statement, really back up your argument about the brilliant developments that you're saying that the FA have brought into play, and then Johnny's going to ask you a few tough questions.
Yeah, I think the new rules are bang on, really, both in a safety aspect. Obviously, young children repeatedly heading the ball isn't great for them, obviously a massive reason why the rule has come in, but also it's going to really test young players and really find different ways to get out of situations, taking high balls down on their chest, playing out from the back, and I think it's going to improve the technicality of young players with this new heading rule.
It's just not the game though, is it, Luke? Obviously, now as you get into senior and older age groups, all of the players head the ball regularly throughout the game.
Yeah, but the game, like everything else, evolves, doesn't it, in terms of, I mean, I don't think you'd argue against the safety aspect of it, young children repeatedly heading the ball, but also the extra challenges that's going to add to their game now. We all watched in great hope England take on Spain in the Euros and hope we won that, and I think it was plain to see that Spain were technically better than England. And I'm not saying I don't know if they do this in Spain or not, but obviously they do something slightly different to stay on the ball for longer periods of time, and this is something extra being brought into the game at the youngest ages that is going to help children find different ways of getting out of situations and not just putting their head through it and sending it back up the other end of the pitch.
Yeah, I just think, obviously, with the amount of restarts that happen in a traditional football match, from goal kicks, from throw-ins, from corners, there's a ridiculous amount that happens throughout a 90-minute game. And in fact, the amount of time the ball spends out of play is sort of an example of how many times the ball goes off the pitch ready for a throw-in or a corner. And from those moments within the game, players need to head the ball and need to be able to flick it on and be able to deal with those real-life restarts, which is what is the game.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying, but I think sort of the negativity that you're talking about, or something that's not really happened yet, we've not really seen the impact that it's going to have. So for someone who's usually really positive like yourself and sort of always looking for new ideas and whatnot, I'm a little bit disappointed in your attitude towards this.
I'm a little bit disappointed.
Okay, we'll finish on Luke's disappointment there in Jonny and his viewpoint. So John, give us a reminder of your statement and then back it up with an opening statement.
So my statement is the new FA rules are ridiculous. Why play the game this way, only for children to play a different game when they progress to senior football? I think, as I've sort of challenged you, Luke, with some of my points, I think ultimately it's not the game. If children are dribbling in from the sideline or passing in from the sideline, that's not what happens as they get into senior football and older football. So I think that they need to be practicing it from the early ages. I also think there's loads of benefits to throw-ins because children are then judging the flight of the ball. They're able to then concentrate on a bouncing ball and a moving ball, and I think that will then just be taken out by this new rule.
But overall, you agree with the rationale behind why this new ruling's coming in?
My understanding of the safety aspect of banning heading, I agree with, but I don't think you necessarily need to then make it ban throw-ins. I think you can still ban heading without banning throw-ins, and I think the new FA rule is ridiculous that suddenly you'd go from no heading and now it's no throw-ins. That's just taken away from the game itself.
What next? No ball?
Exactly, thank you, Judge.
We'll end there on that fantastic point.
Discontent. But like, sorry.
No. That was the end.
So I've not had any chance for any questions.
Yeah, you've had a bit of chance. Yeah. Fair chance. Hey, look. This is my last opportunity to be the judge, so I'm going to really put my foot down today. I will not have that. Great stuff. Well, look, a fantastic debate. I think that within the discussion that took place, Jonny's point there about it being crazy to rip up the rule book, what we've got is a version of the game at grassroots level. And what's happening is it's getting further and further away. And I'd love to have a discussion as we go into our real life opinions in a second about how that then relates to someone coming into the National League and playing with the balls up in the air all the time. So that'll be a really interesting chat. But based on the balance of conversation and the backing your statements that you were given, we've got a lovely new air freshener diffuser in the office, which smells absolutely beautiful. And what I'm going to do for the winner is I'm going to turn the sticks around to get some extra fragrance as well, because that's always a top tip for anyone who's watching that really wants to boost the fragrance in their home. Absolutely delightful. The flavour is pink peppercorn and rose.
Oh, lovely.
Which takes it up a notch. And this week's winner is Jonny. Congratulations,
Thanks
John.
Thanks very much, James.
Find a little space for that. Where are you going to put it?
Back on the shelf.
Fantastic stuff. Well, look, we've represented some views, but let's now hear the real views of us guys and have a great chat about this brilliant new development, or is it, for the grassroots game. Great debate, guys. We're now going to talk about our real life views. So picking up on that last point then. So, Luke, you've played in the National League, League 2, League 1, the Championship, the Premier League, the Champions League, and a few other leagues.
Belgian League.
First and second division.
Yeah. Won the second division. Futsal League.
England
Won
Futsal League.
England.
Yeah.
Many leagues.
Plenty of leagues.
Now, obviously, the game of football is very different in the Premier League to the Championship even. Completely different to League 2 and a whole new game entirely when it comes down to the National League. But having spoken to a few people and know a few players that have played in the National League, sometimes if you're a centre midfield player or playing anywhere in midfield, you're doing this, you're watching the ball go over your head. The ball is in the air a lot. So to take heading out of the grassroots game, how does that play into developing children to be able to then go on to play?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. I think if you ask me that question while still being a footballer out there and see what the FA have done, I'd say that is absolutely ridiculous. It's madness taking it out of the game. But I think when you look into it with a little bit more detail and sort of take your professional footballer's hat off and look as a parent, a developer of young players, and at the Football Fun Factory, the number one priority is safety, isn't it? And I'm not sort of educated enough to understand the risks of heading the ball repeatedly as a young child, but I completely understand why that's happening, because safety has to come before anything else. And you see all the stories of players coming out of the game, older players that have got issues from repeatedly heading the ball, and taking that away at those youngest ages. It's obviously been done for a reason, and I personally trust in that decision of why it's been done.
Yeah, I think all three of us would agree if there's evidence that supports that there's a safety risk, then taking that out of the game, especially the younger age groups, is absolutely the right thing to do. What are your experiences, John, or memories of playing football as a child and heading the ball, if any?
Not loads, to be honest. Like occasionally, to be honest, I think you get do a few headers, you get a bit of mud on your face and maybe a ball print on your head, sort of thing. But I mean, in general, I don't know. If anyone's seen me play, I like to keep my kit very clean and don't.
You're a centre half.
Yeah, and I don't like getting dirty. But I think from my early childhood memories, I don't have loads of heading. I don't think it was necessarily a huge feature. But go on, you see, like you've got something up your sleeve.
So I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved that. One of my favourite memories from playing grassroots football was heading goal kicks. So the goalies
You took the goal kicks with a header.
no,
You're only
not taking a goal kick with my head. Was the opposition goalie booming the ball down the pitch, and then being the person that was brave enough to go and head it, because a lot of people then shied away. And I always remember there'd be games where like the ball then bounced and it would go through and someone would run onto it and score. Yeah. And I was like, don't let the ball bounce. And I absolutely loved heading it. And then I think the reason why was because there was loads of positive reinforcement around it. I would then go and head the ball, and everyone would be like, "Oh, great, yeah!"
Because no one else does it very often.
Because people weren't willing to go and stick their head on a ball that was coming flying out the air. Now, how that's affected me, who knows?
Should ban all heading.
Who knows? There's your evidence, FA. But yeah, quite fond memories of heading the ball. I think that obviously the benefits beyond the safety implications of it, the benefits are that there's been a shift in the national ethos of football, hasn't there? And it's been a huge benefit to it, and we've seen that now filter through into the senior team. I think we can all agree on that. Like we've seen a shift in terms of from larger sided games to smaller sided games, and loads of interventions in the way that the game's played to now make it so that children are developing and getting more touches of the ball. Yeah, this intervention is going to help children get more touches of the ball, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think one of the rules, obviously, is you can either pass in or you can dribble in. So
what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think ultimately it's going to get those younger children more touches. I mean, the amount of foul throws in those younger age groups, like under 9s and 10s, is sky high, isn't it? So I think ultimately, if it's going to get more touches for the children, more sort of problem solving, more tight dribbling skills and decision making, then it sort of makes sense. And I think there still is then plenty of time from 12s through to senior football where you can practice those heading skills in a safer environment where it's then your skull's more developed to be able to then withstand the force of the ball heading and hitting your head. So I think it makes sense. I probably do agree a little bit with one of the things I said earlier on in the judges' debate, just around children do also need to think about controlling a bouncing ball and a ball being thrown in. So I don't know whether there's maybe another stage to it. So it was like from 9s to 10s is pass-ins and dribbles in, and then 11s is actually throw-ins, but you're not allowed to head it still. So they're still then having to work on that skill.
Yeah, I think there's trade-offs, isn't there? I think in terms of sort of you look at a lot of the top-end grassroots academy football now, it is very sort of structured in the way that the game's played. You see loads of technically really gifted young people playing football, but maybe you don't see that as much of them mavericks and free spirits that we maybe saw some years ago. And I think the way that the sort of dribbling on from the side of the pitch, people are allowed to do that, given more opportunity to do that, it's definitely going to aid sort of development of more creative, different types of players.
So here's a question then. And the question that I get a lot through socials and stuff is, how do I stop my child or a child in my team from hogging the ball? I can see this then being quite a contentious challenge that then people are faced with, because the child that wants to take the throw in before would throw it into someone else, whereas now they're staying on the ball, dribbling and hogging it.
Yeah, I think with the passings versus dribblings, I'm just thinking of the various different age groups. So one of the things when I think of grassroots football at the really youngest age groups and how the game has changed and developed, and like the retreat rule and things like that, I always think of like, I remember taking a grassroots team and there would be matches where I was like, oh no, we've got a goal kick.
Yeah.
So it's just like, oh, we're going to concede because our goalkeeper, bless him, is going to kick the ball out. He's going to kick it straight to their striker, and their striker's going to smash it, and they're going to score. And I was just like, and that just happens repeatedly, and then the confidence is knocked. And then the FA go, okay, this is a problem, we can't allow this, and they put something in place. I do think that there will be some problems and issues with then, for example, I just imagine a under 8s game, and imagine they're like a child that does like to be on the ball a lot, shall we say, and that anyone can then obviously take a pass in or a dribble in, I assume. It doesn't have to be shared and rotated, and obviously the coach can manage that. But if then every time the ball goes off, someone goes and sprints and gets it first, puts it down, dribbles on, it's just like them, it's like playground football being the one that just never passes. Because I then think if the rule was that you had to pass in the ball, there's benefits to that. I think then there's also drawbacks to that, because then it takes you back to that goalkeeper situation where we pass the ball and we just give the ball away straight away, because it's quite difficult to, in a static situation where the play's all in front of you, to then actually pick out a pass to one of your teammates is quite tough.
Yeah, especially at that age where there's no off-the-ball movement or runs or anything like that. They just all stand there. But yeah, it's interesting. I can foresee a challenge that coaches will face, and parents will probably put upon the coaches, because there will be 1 or 2 children that love dribbling and staying on the ball, which is obviously great because we want to develop those players. It's then probably just maybe a bit of support, and the FA may have this planned out, but support with coaches and parents in how to manage that and manage certain individuals and try and make sure that it's fair and everyone's getting lots of touches.
What do you think of the dribbling, passing aspect of it, Luke?
Yeah, well, I'm sort of a great believer in, was the playground, the ultimate ball hog. Everyone hated me because I'd never pass a ball and try and dribble around everyone. I sort of love seeing children like that and players that sort of take that on, and I think being able to do that, and I completely understand the challenge for the coaches, the parents, managing expectations of the players, but I think to allow more of that, like you say, I think the kicking will just really slow the game down, which, you know what it's like, them youngest ages, and the little boy or little girl's there and they're taking ages looking all around, that sort of thing. I think what it does allow, and that's very similar with the throw-ons as well, I think if you are allowed to dribble on, it just makes the game a little bit quicker and probably more enjoyable for the children that are on the pitch playing.
I don't know whether I'm positioned to make this recommendation, so I'll sort of put my neck on the line a little bit, because I haven't seen a grassroots game or a number of grassroots games with this new rule to see whether this is a good recommendation. But I'm pretty sure it would be. So within our sessions, it's interesting because the sessions that we run, we would have exactly this, dribblings and passings rather than throw-ins within the training sessions that we run. So it's very much a football fun factory way. And I would quite often, to avoid those situations where everyone stood there, they're trying to wait for this little boy or girl to pass the ball back on the pitch and nobody's playing, we would then say, right, got 3 seconds, hand on the ball, 3 seconds to play. I think that as a intervention for coaches to bring into their training and try to implement within matches is probably a good idea, John.
Yeah, agreed. I think the fact that it's a choice, I think that's what hopefully will stop that. So where a child, if it was only passings, the child would stand there and think, oh no, what do I do? Looking round. Whereas it almost is, if you can't see a pass within 3 seconds, it's then just dribble and start sort of drawing a player in. So I guess from that aspect, that will work quite well, and definitely a tip for coaches to maybe frame it to children in that way. Look for a pass. If you can't see it within 3 seconds, then dribble in and then try and force a player to draw out of their position to then slide someone in. But yeah, no, it'd be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
I don't think a huge amount's going to change in them really youngest ages, because it's very rare you see the ball up in the air that much for someone to actually head the ball. It's all the little ones chasing the ball about and they're all together bunched up, and it doesn't really happen that much. I think it'd be more interesting the higher the ages go before it goes back into where you can head the ball again, where it will look quite different in terms of what we see currently.
Really, really interesting stuff. It feels like releasing this podcast at the start of the new football season is a really good time. It also feels like that in maybe 5 or 6 episodes' time, there might be a topic that allows us to touch back on this and to have a little bit of an evaluation of how it's gone. So tune in for that one. But really interesting discussion. And now it's time for everyone's favourite part of the podcast. Chaddy's quick fire questions. My question for you this week, Luke, was who's the best goalkeeper beyond Peter Schmeichel, who I assume would be the answer, that you played with?
Yeah, so I never actually played with Peter Schmeichel that much. In training a few times when I was a scholar growing up, the goalkeeper was Fabian Barthez at Manchester United, who obviously started off absolutely brilliantly, then made a few mistakes. But the best goalkeeper in terms of shot stopper that I ever played with after Man United was David Marshall at Norwich City. Incredible shot stopper.
On loan from Celtic at the time?
I think he signed permanently.
Did he?
Yeah, under Peter Grant, but yeah.
Nice.
Great shot stopper.
Chaddy, when you played, did you have an agent or did you broker deals yourself?
Yeah, so I had an agent. I went signed with an agent, but I had a great guy that I used to work with through my career that sort of helped me in terms of negotiations with clubs and whatnot to move. As it got towards the end of my career, when I was just renegotiating at MK Dons or moving to Cambridge United, I'd done it myself.
Nice. How did you find that process?
Yeah, quite easy really. I wasn't asking for that much money. That whatever they offered me, I'd usually just take it, sign it. So obviously an awful negotiator, but quite happy just to sign a contract and carry on doing something that I love doing.
Nice.
So that concludes another episode of the Football Fun Factory podcast. My last episode as the judge. We cannot wait to see Johnny Martin in the gown and the wig, with the gavel and the block of wood in the next episode.